Hey, this is Gary from JoypadLad.com, and in this video I'm going to give you guys a tour of my personal game room. As you can see up here on the marquee, well, no, it doesn't say it, but maybe eventually it will once I get the letters. I actually bought some letters, but they didn't fit, so I got to give it another stab. So as you can see in here, this was a movie theater, so that explains the marquee. There's the big screen there. We've never used it though since we moved into this place because they gutted it. They took out all the speakers and off the walls, and the projector, as you see, is missing up there. You also see those colorful lights that I put in just a couple weeks ago. I put it all nice and fancy to start off the video, but we're gonna switch the lights to normal so you guys can see better as we go along. Excuse my camera work. I'm not the most experienced at filming videos this way. So we're gonna set these all to warm. I have a remote like this, which is cool because it works on each one individually, which is nice because as you see through here, there's multiple different gaming stations, I guess you could say, and you can have different lighting for each area if you want to, really. Okay, so I have some background music playing with all the TVs on just to give it more ambiance, but we're gonna go over all the stuff as much as I can in this video that I have in the room and kind of explain why it's here, where I got it from, what kind of meaning it has to me, because I want to go into detail in this video, not to really show off what I have, because I have a decent collection, but nothing like amazing, because, you know, it's the internet. Everyone has something better than you, no matter how good your collection is, except for whoever owns the current Guinness record, then no one has anything better than them, I guess. So there's one person that's better than everyone. But everyone else, there's at least one person better than them. So I want this to kind of be a long video, and I want it to be interesting, so I'm not going to go into too much detail and take too long, but I'm going to go into some detail and stuff because this video was requested by some of my friends on Twitter, and I kind of want to give them a detailed look at this room, considering they'll probably never see it in person. So let's start right here with this Deion Sanders magazine cover. That's not my name or address on there. That's the guy I bought it from on eBay years ago. So the reason I got this magazine was because growing up, Deion Sanders was my favorite football player. I collected his cards and everything. And I just remember the time when he went to the Niners and he went to the Cowboys, just how big culturally that was, just the commercials and everything that he had going on and all that was, he was an awesome player too. He was a pop culture phenomenon. So he was my favorite guy. So I got that poster of him, the magazine cover. And speaking of posters, I just got this one recently. I don't remember the name of the Etsy shop, but I'll link in the description for a lot of these things, so you guys, if you're interested, can find them. But, so this guy made this one, and then he also made this one. And there's some other ones as well. And it's a deconstructed 64 and a deconstructed PlayStation. But as you can see here, it's all different characters and scenes from games from that system. You see Parappa the Rapper down here. Sorry, I'm not the best at recording videos like this. Actually, one of the first few times that I've ever recorded like this, so I'm going to try to keep everything on screen that I'm talking about as much as possible, but I'm getting distracted by what I see that's not on the camera as well. This picture I created and printed myself with my new fancy printer I got, and I just downloaded the PNGs of the characters, and I just made a pixelated thing to make it match the Dragon Quest Builders genre, because it's a blocky voxel game like Minecraft in some ways. And I wanted to have a picture for this game because it's become one of my favorite games. Builders 1 and 2 on the Switch is what I played on. My kid does as well, and my wife finally started playing it. Street Fighter Alpha, because the Street Fighter series is one of my favorite games of all time. I played it on the arcade a ton as a kid, and this is one of my favorite pieces of art from the series, this Street Fighter Alpha poster for the arcade. I printed that out as well. I printed out this one here, trying not to get the reflection here. Turtles 2, the arcade game. This one, I try to make as much in my room as unique as possible. This isn't like the most unique thing, but I needed something Turtles in here. This is an awesome piece of art from the Nintendo game, and it's a memorable game that we played a ton as kids. The arcade game and the arcade game on the NES as well. And then The Sims, because early on, when we first got a computer, we didn't get one until late 2000, early 2001. The Sims was just taking off, super popular. We played it a ton. We used to have, like, our friends would have towns or houses in our town in the game, and when they would play, they would only play when they came over, obviously. So when they were gone at their house, we would use the cheats and put cockroaches under their beds and everything, and then they turned it on and roaches would be infesting their house and be like, what happened? Be like, oh, you don't know about the cheats, dude. You just got screwed. So this one I got at the Retro Gaming Expo in Ontario, California a few years ago. It's just printed on like some foam. I'm sure you guys have seen something similar to this at other game shows. It's pretty cool. The reason I got Mario 64 is because that's my wife's favorite game. So I didn't have a lot of Mario 64 stuff. So I went with that one. I probably would have got Chrono Trigger. I think they had Chrono Trigger, but I didn't get it, which I should have now. Now that I think of it. I just put these up just recently, these Bendums. I kind of got into these again, Bret Hart and the Patriot. Got into them again because I bought Razor Ramon and Diesel for my brother when we went to go get signed photos and toys and everything from Scott Hall and Kevin Nash when we went there to Redlands, California just a week ago as of the recording of this video, so the beginning of September. So he got those signed, and then I was like, man, I had a leftover Bret Hart from the lot that I purchased, and I wanted something with the Patriot, who just actually passed away a few months or weeks ago. So I wanted to get something with him too. And then that feud that they had, even though it was short-lived, Bret Hart and the Patriot in '97, I actually, as a kid, thought that the Patriot had a chance of beating Bret Hart. So it's memorable to me, so I wanted to have those guys up there. And let me tilt this up a little bit. I just got boxes for all the systems that we have up there. The Switch Lite, that's my wife's, and then our Switch, and controllers just for display, and Final Fantasy VII for the computer, the original first release for the PC that I got way back then, and I didn't play it that much, but I held on to it, and I think it was kind of spread around the pieces, and I got it all back together and put it in there. Speaking of which, well, shout out to this awesome Zelda Backpack first, which you can, I think I still have a couple of these available on the website for sale. They're around $24 or so. I use that anytime I go anywhere with my Nintendo Switch. I can fit the Switch and a couple controllers and stuff in there. It's awesome. So let's go up here to the top row first. There's a Wii Lunch Box. I just got that randomly in a lot at some point. Got some Animal Crossing amiibos and a little Animal Crossing figure of KK Slider. Just recently picked up some Ninja Turtles from a guy on Twitter, and I always had a affinity for Metalhead back then, so I had to hold on to that one for the shelf. And then Bowser Jr., one of my favorite characters in the game, in the Mario games and the franchise, so I had to get him, the plushie of him. And in the background, speaking of piecing things together, as I said, Mario Party E, yeah, that's the way you say it. It's like a card game, but card game plus it's an e-reader game. You can scan the cards to do mini games, and it's like Mario Party, and you can play the mini games on your Game Boy Advance. I had that game, and we played it a couple times back when it came out, and then I pieced it all out because I used to use any loose cards I had as backing to print paper cards and put them in front of them for different card games, like for example Pokemon and stuff, just for playing with each other. You know, me and my brother and stuff. So luckily I put it all back together because I think that actually goes for a decent amount right now. So I'm not going to sell it, but it's actually pretty valuable. There's an Animal Crossing poster. I got this. Most of these are pictures. It's 8x8. Most of these I got off of Redbubble. I don't remember the artist for this one, but I just wanted something Animal Crossing on the wall. So I got that one. The mini box, or the box for the mini Super Nintendo and Nintendo 3DS. Mario chess set, my mom gave that randomly to me. She was just going to different like swap meets and stuff all the time and found that one time, and I decided not to sell it and keep it. Stone Cold Steve Austin Ghostbusters figure. I had to get this one because I'm not like a mega Ghostbusters fan, but I was a fan of the Ghostbusters, especially as a kid in the 80s. And I was a huge Stone Cold fan early on, and he's still not like one of my top guys because I don't usually go for the most popular guys, but I had not that much you know, representation of Stone Cold in the room or Ghostbusters, so the perfect combination there. Actually, if they made WWE wrestlers for that Ghostbusters movie that everyone hates, that probably would have been a better movie. Mega Man here, and then of course my only graded card. I had to buy this one on eBay. It was like $40 or something like that, and maybe less. PSA 8 Surfing Pikachu, of course, the promo star on there. I had to get that card because I don't think I ever had a Surfing Pikachu, but if you're going to get into graded cards, I think it's obvious most people would agree that first thing you go for is a Surfing Pikachu. And then I got the Pixel Pals. Oh, I didn't turn these guys on, but they light up if you haven't seen them before. This one's dead. So I'll show you. Some of the other ones I have batteries. I filled this jar with dice because I've always been obsessed with dice as a kid. I used to make a lot of games with dice as well. I actually made RPGs drawn out on paper. Not just like, like a D&D RPG. I mean, like literally each page was a scene from a game, like as if it was a video game. And then I had sheets of stuff that I wrote down the stats for like items and stuff in the game. And I used strategy guides from all the popular games back then, like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VII, to get ideas for how to balance my stuff. I think I actually had 4 games that I made. Secret of the Past was the name of the game, which of course was a takeoff of Secret of Mana and Secret of Evermore, because those were 2 of my favorite games as well. I made 4 games, big, huge, giant stacks of paper, and I think I only played or tried to play one of them, and it was actually pretty hard. I was dying on the first boss, which was the Jester in the town. I got these boxes on display. I actually have both games too, but 2 of my favorite games, NBA Jam Tournament Edition and Toe Jam and Earl, which I didn't play Toe Jam and Earl until I got it on the Wii Virtual Console. My brother actually had it first, and we played it a ton, and like with a lot of games growing up, when we played 2-player, we always lost, and he sucked and made me lose. So I'd play single player and win and beat the game easily. So I don't know why. It's not like he was like horrible, but for some reason he just couldn't keep up, I guess. I don't know. That was one of the big things with Gauntlet back in the day. He would always get stuck and we'd have to backtrack to help him catch up to us when we played that game. So that game, and then Beavis and Butthead on the Super Nintendo, he always sucked, and I beat the game finally when I played it by myself. Secret of Mana as well. I don't know why. He just couldn't beat it. So then we got new up here from Chrono Trigger. This one is actually from KARILIKELIKES. She's on Twitter, Instagram, and she has a store on Redbubble. That's where I got that one from. A lot of my art on the wall is from her. And let's go down to the games now. I got my full Armor of God because I wanted to have some kind of representation of my faith on here. And this fit perfectly. Looks awesome next to the dice. I just randomly saw it in the store one day, and I said, oh, this is perfect for the game room. We only just got a PS4 maybe... It was like just over a year ago, on August 2020. My wife was like, oh, I want to play this game or that game that people I know are talking about, which of course she barely played any of the games. I haven't played it that much either, but this is the collection we have. Final Fantasy VII Remake, everyone's probably asking, what's your take on the game? I don't know. I played it about 15 minutes, and I never got back into it yet. It wasn't horrible, but a lot of people say a lot of bad stuff about the game. A lot of people like the game. I just haven't been hyped to get into it now because it's not... I can tell it's not what I thought it was going to be. I think I might still enjoy some of it, but it's not a priority for me to get into right now. And then, of course, the little mini Polygon figures, which are awesome, designed after the original characters from the PS1 game. I got these recently. I did have, in case you're wondering, I did have the Cloud in drag with the dress on one, because I bought a few boxes of these until I finally got it. But I was selling off all the extras, and I just decided to sell it. That thing, it was going for like over $100. I don't really care to have Cloud in the dress. I'd rather have the $100, and I still have all these characters. I still wish that they did another series. Maybe they will. Or that they included some of the other characters as opposed to having Reno in there. Maybe they could have threw someone else in there, because they're still missing some of the main characters. And in the background, you might see it, might not. That's my ADG from my YouTube channel. I used to have a dual get. And one of the prizes for the Patreon supporters was my rookie card, my YouTube rookie card. So if you're a card fan out there, you know this design that's from the old, I think it's 1989, and then in 2020, it might have even been in 2012. It was somewhere in the 2000s that they did newer cards in that same design. So I signed it, and then even on the back made it look like the same design as the original card. So I had a few left over. I decided to keep one just to remember my old channel. Over here, not in the box, but I have an Akuma PS2 controller, awesome fighter pad. I have a couple other ones too, I'll show you later. More Deion Sanders stuff, pop figures, and little headliners. These headliners were actually pretty cool. back in the 90s. I wish they'd make something more like that again, because those are awesome. I don't know if those are the only Dion ones, but I think they are. Over here is the Switch collection, and I'll zoom out in a little bit to show you guys the full shelf. The shelf I got from, I think it was Wayfair a few years ago, and all the shelves except for the middle row are adjustable. You got Bowser right here. Bowser Amiibo, I got it in a random lot, and then that little silver Mario from a random thrift store. He's trying to get the lame boy. Bowser's teasing him, holding it over his head. And then my Switch collection here, just only I think 2 years ago now, we got a Switch for Christmas, so we're late to the game, but I got it because of Animal Crossing, and now I have a ton of games here. You could pause it and see what I have here. I'm not going to go over every single one, but the ones I've played the most is Dragon Quest Builders and Dragon Quest Builders 2, Animal Crossing, of course, and then a lot of the other ones I've just been kind of buying and stocking up, and hopefully maybe have some time at some point to play them all. So let's back up here now and see the full shelf. If you look from either the left or the right and go from the top down, the way I organize this is I have the newest system, at least that I own, at the top. So Nintendo Switch, Wii and Wii U together on the right side going down, then GameCube, Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, and then at the very bottom, NES, Nintendo, regular Nintendo as I call it, as an 80s kid. PS4 on the left side top, PS3, and some of these stretch into the middle because I have so many games of that system. So that's kind of the balancing act to get that all sorted out. So PS3, PS2, PS1, and then I have Xbox 360 right next to the wrestling figures, original Xbox, and then just some other stuff down at the bottom, PC bottom middle, and then in the middle is, you got a little bit of Sega, Dreamcast, the Genesis, and more Genesis there and some other stuff. So let's look over some of these games. This is the Wii collection. I actually had a Wii pretty close to launch. It might have been around launch, but I gave my cousin my Wii, that's what I remember, and I sold off most of my games. And then over the years, somewhat recently, been buying them back. I actually never got a Wii again, but I got a Wii U, and I started getting all these Wii U games. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit of how I organize these games, because as you can see, they're not in alphabetical order. So what I do, most people that I've seen, they do it by alphabetical order. Then other people will do genre, and I sort of do genre, but it's more of like what goes first is what's more important to that system. For example, Nintendo, all the first-party Nintendo games are going to go first, starting with Mario. So you see right here, I got Mario 3D World, and then New Super Mario Brothers U and Luigi U, and then other, more obscure Mario games. Then the offshoots, like for example Yoshi and Captain Toad. Then like the party games, quote unquote, like the racing and Smash Brothers, and then Zelda, and then Donkey Kong. I mean, most of these Wii U games that I have are all first party, but I do the same here. Harder to see because everything looks the same, blends together on the Switch. But same thing with Mario's, then Luigi, Yoshi, then like the party games, Animal Crossing, and then Zelda would be in there, which I use these games on the edge here as like almost like a bookend, and then also a way to display, a game facing forward if I have the space to do so. So that's why Zelda's over there. And then going from there, then it'll be like certain genres, which kind of sometimes are based on what the first few games are like in some ways. I'll probably be able to explain it more as you see some of the other collections. But then you see I have some kind of like platform games that aren't Nintendo games, and then racing, and then a building game, like an open world. Same thing with the Builders game. Then it goes to like RPGs, and then towards the end I kind of have a set way that they go for the most part. But like I said, it depends on the system. For example, when we get to PS3, I'm going to have the Uncharted games first. So then right after those, I'm going to have more like the over-the-shoulder or first-person shooter games to kind of continue the genre. It's a little bit complicated, but it helps to be able to find similar games pretty easily and know what you have, as opposed to everything mixed together just in alphabetical order, where you know if exactly what you're looking for, you can find it, but that's it. Toad plush down here, and then the highly sought after Game Boy Advance GameCube disc. This is the original that I had, as is the Super Mario Sunshine game original that I got. When I turned 18, I got my money out of the bank that I had from a settlement when I was a kid, when I got hit by a car and had to be in a body cast for a few months when I was 5 years old. I'll show you a picture. Actually, I have a picture in the room, and you'll see why I have it in the room in a little bit. But same thing here. So Mario first, Zelda. I don't have a lot of games for the GameCube. I was never a huge GameCube guy, but there's a lot of great games that I do like. Well, I mean, some people might think this isn't a lot, but I have these Zelda games, Ocarina of Time, and it's got the Master Quest on it. I'm not really a big fan of the game, but I got it from the Wind Waker pre-order, and I just didn't want to get rid of it. So I'm hoping one day I'll get more into Ocarina of Time, because I never was like a huge fan of it. Four Swords was pretty cool, because I'm more of an old school Zelda fan. Animal Crossing, played that game a ton when we were kids, when it first came out. I still think I like the original more than anything. It just seems like it has more to it than a lot of the games. Even though it's not as polished now, it's hard to compare it to some of the newer games, but it just has so much cool stuff in it that a lot of the other games just never continued on. I don't know why they didn't do that. There's a lot of stuff they could have continued, like for example the Nintendo games, how many villagers you have, all the different little holidays and stuff that they never really kind of matched up to the original game. Evolution Worlds, great little RPG. I played it a little bit, not a ton. Dark Legacy, awesome. Reason I got it is because Legends on the 64 is awesome. Twin Snakes, got it because I'm a huge fan of the first Metal Gear Solid. Monkey Ball was a cool, fun game back then. Rugrats, just a game for my kid. And then the wrestling games and NBA Street. I'm not like a huge fan of the GameCube wrestling games, but it's still something to play from back in the day. So I don't have fancy labels, as you can see on my 64 games. The reason I didn't do the fancy box art side style logo labels that people do is because I wanted it to look more like, you know, the originals, the NES, or sorry, the regular Nintendo, as I usually call it, and the Super Nintendo. So I just got like one of those P-Touch label makers and got these. I wanted to do yellow, but I couldn't. I could only find black with gold, so I just printed out the names of the games here. You can see same thing. Got the Marios going, and then it goes to third party after that. WWF No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000, we played it a ton. We actually had our own feds in the game back then on the 64, and I had notebooks and I'd write down the matches for all the shows, book everything. We'd even do screw jobs where I would be the referee of a match and I would screw someone over that they thought I was on their side. We had all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. We would create ourselves as wrestlers and then other people we knew, and we mostly just played creator wrestlers back then. Of course, we played the story mode and all that too, but Mario Party as well, Mario Party 1 through 3, still my favorite Mario Parties. I could never get into the ones on the GameCube. I don't know why. I just never thought they matched up to the original 3 in my opinion. Sorry about that. Zoom back out. So, Super Nintendo collections actually went up a ton. A lot of these games I didn't have until just recently, just being able to pick up stuff with having the business. And I kind of didn't want to do this video to show off like all the stuff I have. Not saying I have more than a lot of people, but I do have more than some people. And since a lot of these games aren't in the store for sale, I hate to be like, hey, look what I have and I'm not selling when I have a game store. Because I know people that have game stores, and what they'll do is they'll get a collection of games and be like, hey, look what came into the store, but I'm not going to sell this to you. I think you should keep that off video. I don't think you should say that in the video. Just don't show the game if you're not going to sell it. But this is a room tour, so I'm going to kind of show you guys what I have here. I didn't have most of these Super Nintendo games because I lost most of my collection when I turned 18 because my brother kept most of it, but I was lucky enough to, early 2000s, I found a copy of Chrono Trigger. You can see here. I got recently the Breath of Fire games again. Mega Man 7 and X3 and X I got because I bought my cousin's collection recently. And I'm missing some games, like X2, that one I actually sold to a guy that was looking for it. I let him take it, even though I wanted to keep it. And then there was another, I think there was a Mega Man game on the Nintendo, same thing. But I wanted Final Fight 3 so bad, because I do have Final Fight 1 and 2. And Final Fight 3 is like an expensive game, but I'm going to let you guys decide in the comments here. So I bought my cousin's entire collection, and there's a couple of games that my brother borrowed and he never returned to him. But that was a long time ago, so I don't know if there's like a rule. If you borrow something for long enough, does it become yours, or is it always the original person's item and you still owe it back to them? Tell me what you guys think of that in the comments. But also, what do you think of, I bought my cousin's entire collection, so in my opinion, which I told my brother, is I bought the rights to all of his games, meaning that Final Fight 3 was his, so you need to give it back to me, which he didn't agree with. So he still has Final Fight 3. I'll let you guys decide in the comments if he should give me that game or not, because I bought the rights to my entire cousin's collection, which includes, in my opinion, games that were borrowed out. So, yeah, that one sucks. I don't have that one. Yeah, not like, I don't know, most of my games are pretty basic, like nothing like super rare besides, I guess, Chrono Trigger, because it went so high in price now. Oh, I mean, these are kind of a little bit rare, the Final Fantasy 2 and 3. I just recently bought those from a friend, a YouTuber, and I paid, you know, what the going rate was just to support him and to get the games. So I figured, you know, support the dude, and I just want to have them for my collection while I can get them, because they're probably going to skyrocket like everything else keeps going up. So yeah, Super Nintendo, we played Super Mario World a ton. I remember first discovering the secret world by myself before I had internet strategy guys, and not even like a lot of people to talk to on the playground to figure out stuff. Super Nintendo was actually pretty awesome, because when I got it when I was 9 years old, we were the first people out of my cousin and uncle who were all big gamers that we were poor and hardly ever had all the newest stuff, especially then for a long time. And we got the Super Nintendo before them. We had it on layaway from Kmart for a long time and finally got it. And it was awesome because they all came over and played Street Fighter, Zelda, and Super Mario World and all that. So here's the Nintendo collection. This is all within the last couple years, because my original Nintendo was lost from 10 million moves that we did as kids, going not only from house to house, but sometimes to car, sometimes to camping ground, sometimes to hotel, and then also sometimes to another state, and back and forth within a few months' time. So a lot of our stuff was just tossed and thrown out or sold. I don't know. I mean, I was pretty young when my parents split up when I was 5, and I don't remember what happened to our Nintendo after that. So a lot of these games I got recently, and I only just got a Nintendo for the first time, you know, a couple years ago. I bought it from a guy on OfferUp or something. And so some of my favorite games, obviously the Marios and Zelda. Mega Mans, I have almost every one. I think I'm missing Mega Man 5. And then, you know, just kind of the basic stuff. Some Turtles and Double Dragons and all that. You know, nothing really amazing. Got the Game Genie, though, of course. You got to have that. So it's back up. In the middle, we got Hey Arnold, because I saw this on Amazon a while ago, and it was awesome. Had to get it. Got the Nuka-Cola drink holders, or whatever you want to... Coasters, yeah, that's what you want to call them. They're like the Nuka-Cola cap, right next to Fallout New Vegas, one of my favorite games ever. Just recently got a PSP finally for the first time in like 15 years, and got these two games because I'm a fan of trading card games, especially playing them on systems, and then Street Fighter because, you know, you can hear it in the background probably. One of my favorite games of all time. I threw one of these FIGPINS in there, bought it from my shop. I have these for sale. Gambit was always like my favorite X-Men for whatever reason as a kid. You can still get those from the shop right now, joypadlad.com. $15 a FIGPIN. There's Wolverine as well. I don't have all the X-Men on there yet because I'm kind of adding stock little by little of those. PS3 over here, Uncharted, one of my favorite games. Never played or beat 3 yet though. And a lot of these games, honestly, I never really got to play or beat because I was really heavy into the PS3 for a while, and then I kind of stopped when I started doing YouTube and was mostly doing PC games. So then Fallout 3, right there, one of my favorite games as well. Played that hundreds of hours. 3D Dot Game Heroes. If you have not played this game, I know it's going up a ton in price recently, but it's an awesome game. It's like Zelda, but it's all little pixels, and you can create your own characters, like those characters to play as. So you can actually play as Link, and I think I made Finn from Adventure Time as well in there, and my own personal character based on my character for my YouTube channel when I played that game on my old YouTube channel. One of my favorite games. The loading screens are awesome because they're references to other RPGs. There's like a Chrono Trigger one, for example, where they're posed like that artwork where it's got all the characters on the white background. It's awesome. So just to explain really quick again how I have these organized: Uncharted, you know, first party Sony game exclusives, and then kind of similar types of games, the Metal Gear's Red Dead Redemption, Fallout and Mass Effect, and then I started doing the platformers again and RPG kind of, you know, adventure games, and then more like the superhero fighting games, more kind of like the Souls games, and then similar type of games like the God of War games, and then some RPGs and so on. I kind of follow that theme for the most part after I get through the initial part of how I organize these. So I just wanted to explain that because that's probably more interesting to some people that are watching this, just curious to how other people organize their stuff. And then hopefully you're able to see that because I wasn't looking at the camera, but let's go down here. PS2, same thing, Grand Theft Auto, huge on the PS2, so I put that first. Then the Metal Gear games, Maximo, and then RPGs after that. Going forward, SmackDown games, played those a ton. Played the story mode. I remember when I was going to ITT Tech when I was 18 or 19 and coming home after school and playing Here Comes the Pain when it first came out. Of course, I had to pick Chris Jericho, my second favorite wrestler of all time. And I remember an hour long, literally took me an hour to beat Stone Cold in a last man standing match. I'll never forget that. Tony Hawk games, awesome. Awesome music as well. There's 3 and 4 right there. Road Rage. And then all the Maddens, because I played Madden more than probably any game ever if you add them all up, because my brother and I were huge football fans, and then also we were huge Madden fans, and we would control every aspect of the season. Like, for example, we would control opposing teams in terms of their rosters to make sure their rosters were actually competitive, and we would move coaches around and all that, but we would control only one team in the game, and we would boost the difficulty all the way up, and we'd still win the Super Bowl almost every year. But it was fun. The roster management of everything was pretty awesome. Love those games back then. I just recently bought them all again to have the collection of them all. PS1, one of my favorite systems of all time. Of course, got Final Fantasy VII. Played that game. When it first came out, my cousin got it, and I remember only getting to play it whenever I had the chance because it was his system. We didn't get a PS1 for a long time until we moved out, because I was living with my aunt and cousin for a while. Until we moved out, we finally got our own. Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy IX, which I never really liked, but I never got that deep into it, so I gotta give it a try. Final Fantasy Tactics, love it though. Chrono Cross, it's not Chrono Trigger, I'll say that. I could never get that deep into it. I like the way the game is set up and the randomness of it all. A lot of like the different aspects of that. It's a cool game, I just never fully got into it. Wild Arms, one of my favorite RPGs, is actually playing on the TV, if you can hear it. Wild Arms 2, Breath of Fire games, awesome games I never beat. I didn't beat a lot of these games because I played them for a long time and then I just never wanted to beat them. It was like some weird thing in my head of like, oh, if I beat it, then it's over. So I didn't beat a lot of these games, so you can see what I have there. And then I still have this, I made this new little case for it, but it was a bigger case. But the PSX Change 2, yeah, that's a hard thing to say. Little sneaky thing to play burned games from back in the day. Dreamcast, I don't have a huge collection. I did get a lot of expensive games from my cousin's collection, but I sold them all off. And I kept just the ones that I liked. And there's some other games I'll probably get eventually, but I'm not huge into Dreamcast. I just wanted it for some of the games that I can't play elsewhere. I wanted the Marvel vs. Capcom for sure. I wanted to keep one of my favorite games. And then WWF Royal Rumble, it's not like the best game, but it's unique and I enjoy it. And it's really the only way to play it, so that's why I got it. And then the sports games are pretty good on there, so I got them there a couple bucks each. Got them pretty cheap online. Got WWF Raw for Genesis box in the background. The wrestlers, Bam Bam Bigelow, Mr. Perfect, one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers, Jake the Snake. And I really have a small Xbox 360 collection. I never really got into it. I bought a 360 like when it first came out, and I tried to play a lot of my Xbox games, as you can see here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, one of my favorite games ever. And it wasn't backwards compatible. And there's a couple other games that I liked here. I don't have a huge collection, but I really like most of what I have here for the Xbox. You know, for example, Toe Jam and Earl 3 I think is underrated. X-Men Legends are awesome. What I used to do back then is I would buy for either the GameCube or the Xbox, any of the like 4-player games, because then I didn't have to worry about like a multi-tap thing for the PS2, so I'd buy them on those systems instead. X-Men Legends 2 is awesome. Tony Hawk 2X, which is Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remastered on the Xbox. And I think it's more of like a port of the Dreamcast version, but whatever, semantic, whatever, it's just semantics. So then I have the little kid robot figures here. Just random ones I pulled. Actually bought them in this town before we moved here at the game store that used to be here. Now it's just an arcade. That's Ryu and E Honda, alternate costumes. And then of course Super Street Fighter 2, the best game ever for the Tiger Electronic. Yeah, it's a Tiger one. I had this game when we were kids, literally when we almost had nothing else. I think we had the Super Nintendo, but we were never allowed to play it, and somehow I got a hold of a copy of this game and played it and enjoyed it, because back then if that's all you had, that's all you had, so you just had to deal with it. Let's go up here to Genesis. I just only recently got a Genesis a few years ago. Bought it from this lady on OfferUp, and I kept most of the games that I originally got from her collection. They used to be her son's. I think he actually passed away, but I don't know the whole story about that. So I wanted to keep as much of it as I could, and luckily they were mostly good games. So, got Donatello with his Michael Jordan style numbered jersey over there, and then behind him's the Sonic games, trying to get a shot of it without moving him. But I got all the Sonic games and Streets of Rage, except for Streets of Rage 3, to Jam and Earl, obviously. Most of my like favorite popular games, nothing like amazing or rare. Sonic and Knuckles. There's the Nuka-Colas. And then we got Game Genie and Super Game Boy for Super Nintendo over there. Ran out of room on the Super Nintendo side. And I forgot to show these guys up here, these little Lego NWO figures. So I had to show that because those are awesome. Down here we got some Simpsons stuff. The Homer car, my brother got me that for Christmas one time. He keeps buying me Simpsons stuff because even though I'm a huge Simpsons fan, he's like obsessed. That's all he ever watches all day, every day. So he always buys me Simpsons stuff for holidays and everything. And you got Muckman over here hiding. Just recently pulled him out of the box of turtle stuff I bought. Let's get down here more. So these are slammers. If you remember Pogs back in the day, I made these. That's the logo for one of my old channels, Dual Sport Superstar, where I used to do, I guess you'd call it Shoutcast, similar to that. Basically, I play sports games and stuff and call it like as if it was a real game. I call it live while I was actually playing it too, which is, Shoutcast is when you're watching someone else. So it's actually more difficult to do. And I think I did a pretty good job at it, and it was fun, but I don't have the YouTube channel anymore, so that's just leftovers. They were for Patreon subscribers, and I just kept them in the jar because I want to make that like a Pog and Slammer jar at some point. Some PS4, or not PS4, but PC games, sorry, and mostly Maddens, and then the Sims and everything. I don't have the original Sims anymore. Sims 2, the Sims 1 collection. I actually have it in another room. But I want to show this off. The original Wrestling Empire, which you may know Wrestling Empire with an E, is on the Switch and pretty much everything now, I think. At least the Switch and Steam. And it's actually a pretty popular wrestling game now. It's pretty good. That's the original from Matt Dickey back in the day. Speaking of original, there's the original WWF Volume 2, 3, I think it's 2, maybe it's 3, 4, 5, and then Aggression, and then some Goosebumps from the same lady I bought the games from for the Genesis. These are not my original Goosebumps. My brother has those because he's a jerk. And then, of course, these Goosebumps tins, which I got on Amazon a couple years ago. They have those books in them. I only bought them because they're the original style. I hate the newer style ones that they do. I haven't went back and read these, but as a kid I was huge into Goosebumps, and actually this one, I remember when they had the Choose Your Own Adventure, and this is the 5th one, I believe. It says number 5, so I don't think it's the first one, but it's one of the ones I remember the most. And when I read the Choose Your Own Adventure books, I never really got into the older ones that were written way before this, of like those classic. If you look up Choose Your Own Adventure, you know the designs. I don't know if those are the originals, but obviously Goosebumps wasn't the first to do it, but it was the first I read, and I was so obsessed with Choose Your Own Adventure books that for an assignment for, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, we had to write a short story about being trapped on a desert island, and I said, hey, can I write a 50-page choose your own adventure book instead, and he said, yeah, the teacher. And I did it. It was awesome, and it worked. But I don't have a copy of that book anymore because I borrowed it to a girl that I was dating before, and of course she never returned it, so that's awesome, right? Bort license plate down here. My brother got me that, of course, because Simpsons, everything. So that's it for the shelf. Sorry that was so long, but let's zoom out. Oh, I forgot to show White Ranger mini helmet up there earlier. Now let's go to the corner. Let's step back and take a look at this PlayStation. I'm not talking about the PlayStation 2 that's playing the game, but the station that you can play games at. And there's the green chairs with the pillows at them. Let's take a perspective view here if we sit down. This was originally all I really had in my old game room at our old house, which is really tiny. It was a 10 by 10, and we just barely moved just over a year ago to Nevada now, and we're renting this house from my stepdad. It's an extra house that he owned to invest in, and it wasn't in the best shape. Like I said, they ripped out all the speakers in here and the projector, and there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like just they tore it out before they left because they, I guess, were going to sell stuff or they didn't want to leave anything valuable. But so we're kind of fixing up the place a little bit as we live here, and it's a big place, so that's why this room is pretty big. Otherwise, like I said, my old game room was tiny. I barely had room for these chairs, and they were backed up against the shelf over here. And then the TV was in the corner, and then the flat screen was right next to it. I'll probably throw some pictures on Twitter or in the video if I feel like editing it and show you my old game room. But here's how I have the system set up here. So this giant CRT, which is the second one I got because the previous one was having issues and kind of the screen died. This one I've had problems with, but believe it or not, when the screen will shake sometimes, the way I fix it is I just bang right where it says Toshiba there down at the bottom. I just punch it and it actually starts working again. I've even had it where the screen doesn't even want to come up at all and the red light will blink, and I just gave up after a while. I was like, well, I might as well punch it because it worked for everything else, and it actually worked and got the TV working again. It's been working pretty well for a while now, and I have all the old school systems hooked up to here. I think it's around 36 inches. It's pretty heavy. I lifted it up there by myself, but I wouldn't recommend most people to do that because I had to basically bear hug manhandle it and suplex it on top of there, and luckily it didn't break anything or any bones or anything. So I got some Minecraft stuff on either side because I was big into Minecraft around 2012 or so when I started my YouTube channel because of it, and I met a lot of people and went to Minecon 2013. As you can see, the little dynamite thing right there. Oops, sorry, clouding the screen. So yeah, I went to it, which was pretty awesome in Florida. First time and only time I've ever been to Florida, and met a lot of people I knew on YouTube back then. It was pretty cool. Although my voice was, I lost my voice basically as soon as I got there, so I was struggling the whole time. Still met like everyone big that I wanted to meet, so that worked out and that was awesome. I have this switcher box over here, 3 of them actually. So each one's connected to a different part of the TV. There's Video 1, Video 2, and Color Stream. Color Stream takes the component cables, and then Video 1 I believe takes the S video cables, and then it's just regular composite on Video 2. And I just, for the most part, put the games on the S video, the systems that I thought would benefit the most from it, and that was Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast, which I don't have my Dreamcast here because I was replacing the battery in it, and I messed something up, and I gotta redo it, and I just haven't done it because I'm too busy. Right now I have the PS2 on, if you're wondering why the cover's missing, because that's the little slide cheat device to play burned games, of course, from when I was a kid. You have to have the cover off. And then this isn't my original PlayStation, but it's one of the ones I got later on. My original one, we got it finally. It took us forever to finally get it. My mom went to like Walmart in the middle of the night and finally got us one. We played the crap out of WWF Warzone because I think that was the first game we got, and made like 8,000 wrestlers in it. And then like pretty soon, I don't know how long after, I had a little CRT TV in a corner shelf that really wasn't made for it, and I tried to squeeze it into a shelf, and then it fit, but then eventually it fell and landed right on top of the PlayStation. I still have that PlayStation. I got it from my brother just recently. I'm going to show you that probably in a video recently because it does not look like you would expect it to look. It actually looks pretty fine, but it doesn't work. I don't remember what doesn't work. I think it's maybe it just doesn't read games. I don't know. It's been 20 years now, but there's a bunch of drawings all on top of it because we just used it as a prop basically, but still held on to it. So maybe I could fix it in a video soon. We'll see. Super Nintendo, not my original Super Nintendo, one of the ones I got recently through the business. Just I had a really yellow one that I got from eBay a long time ago because when I turned 18, me and my brother kind of split the systems, so he kept our original Super Nintendo. But recently I found a really nice one, and so I kept this one. Mario Paint's in there because my son plays it a ton. There's the NES that I just got recently within the last couple of years. My original one, like I said, I don't know what happened to it, but this one I installed. See if we can get a good shot in there. Blinking Light Win, where it has a, it's a straight ahead little adapter in here where you can't push it down, so you can put the game straight in. You don't have to worry about, you know, over time the original Nintendos would have an issue where that spring would wear down the pins in there because you're constantly pushing games in and down. So this one, you know, pretty much works every time you put a game straight in. So I just figured for my own case, because that one I've repaired the pins on systems before and they were fine, but for some reason mine was still always having issues. So I just said, you know, whatever, and bought that. And it's been great. I haven't had any issues with it. I think maybe one game glitched or froze, but that was it. You know, I played it a good amount on some of the older Mario games and had no issues. And then we got the GameCube, my original GameCube that I got when I turned 18, the black one with the matching at the bottom GameCube player, of course, with leaf green Pokemon in there still. I was actually playing that somewhat recently with my daughter and kind of showing her the Pokemon games, and just haven't played it in a while. The Nintendo 64, this is the original one that we did not buy, but we got when we were kids, teenagers. This is the one that we played all those wrestling matches in No Mercy in WrestleMania 2000. This is the original Nintendo 64 that our friends in the trailer park that we lived in at the time that used to come over a lot and play games with us, they broke my mom's, believe it or not, just a regular on-the-wall cordless phone. They broke the cord off of it, the little antenna actually, and it still worked, but she complained or something, and I don't know if they didn't want to get in trouble with their parents, or I don't know what happened, but they gave us the Nintendo 64. I don't know how that didn't get them in trouble with their parents, but they gave us the 64. I got to keep it with me and my brother's divorce, if that's what you would call it, when I turned 18 and he was still 16 and we had to split everything up. So I got to keep that 64. The Genesis over here with Sonic in it. Sonic, I think it was Sonic 1, maybe Sonic 2 was actually one of it was the first game my daughter ever played, because the Sonic games are actually really good, I believe, for kids, because you kind of just run through. It's not too much of a rush, and if you get hit by something, usually you accidentally get your rings back, or some of them at least. So it's pretty easy to keep going in the game, and that's the first game that my daughter played, and now she's crazy playing all kinds of games and sometimes finding stuff that I never discovered at the age of 5 now. Original Xbox, I think I mentioned before, I had a 360, but I was upset because it didn't play a lot of my backwards compatible games that I loved on the Xbox. But I did sell my original Xbox, so this isn't my original. I sold it to get the 360, but I actually got rid of the 360 pretty quick and got another Xbox, which was this one from Game Crazy in Redlands, California. It doesn't exist anymore, of course. Game Crazy's gone. There's a Hollywood Video over there that doesn't exist either. These are all from when I was a kid too. I still have Final Fantasy 7 and 8 strategy guide, as well as Metal Gear Solid 2, because I got stuck early on in the game and could not even beat that part where there's like, you got to sneak past the guys that are doing like calisthenics or something. I don't remember. There was some weird thing that I couldn't figure out, and I got the strategy guide, but still never got that far in Metal Gear 2. And then of course this Simpsons trivia book, which is like really outdated now, but when you think of it, it really only includes all the best Simpsons anyways, because they kind of went to crap after a while. I don't even think it goes to season 10. Let's see if we can figure it out really quick. Let's see. Season 1. Okay, never mind. Yeah, this is an awesome book. I just randomly got it from a bookstore in the mall back in the day. But yeah, I think it goes like season 8 maybe. Sorry if you didn't see all that. I was looking at the book, not through the camera, still getting used to that. I threw these up there, not the original boxes of original controllers. They're the retro a bit. Recent ones that came out, but the boxes look cool still. And I would have put them on display. Why not? Instead of throwing them away. Not like when we were kids. Let's go to the wrestling corner here. Just recently when we saw Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, my wife with her autographs got this belt signed. I had this belt already here on the wall. She had it signed on each side by Nash and Hall. And this is the shirt I put in here kind of as a joke because a few years ago, I think it might have been 2015, I don't remember. Me and my brother went to a show at the Comedy Store in LA, and it was called the Roast Rumble, and it was a bunch of comedians and wrestlers. They come out every few minutes and roast basically the Iron Sheik. The show itself was kind of a mess, as was Buff Bagwell, who saw me wearing an NWO shirt pretty close to the front and just wanted to sign my shirt. He's like, oh, let me sign your shirt. I'd never asked him to. I don't know if you can see there. It sort of says Buff because he tried to sign it like 3 or 4 times. He kept leaving and coming back. I was like, oh yeah, cool, that's fine. I didn't think he was going to keep coming back, but he did. So that's there as a joke because it's awesome, the story. And then I got a couple wrestling things up here, NWO figures, Raw Deal boxes that I bought recently a few years ago before cards really took off. These boxes weren't super expensive. They were still expensive, but not super bad. I bought a few boosters and starter deck boxes and stuff. And then right here, there's a card of Razor Ramon, which I believe that's 7th edition. So he wasn't Razor Ramon at the time that this was made, but this is one of the cards that I made myself when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, I made my own wrestling card game. It's pretty basic. It's just, you can see the 6 moves on there, including the finisher. You roll a dice after you flip a coin to see whose turn it is. Roll 1 through 6, and that's the move they do. And there's a few other rules besides that, but basically, you go till you pin them or drain their HP. I started making other characters like Razor Ramon and all that because I didn't have a computer then. I would trace out the cards with a cutout Magic card, Magic the Gathering, and then I would cut out pictures from magazines, tape it to a sheet of multiple cards, maybe 8 cards, go to the local gas station, photocopy them, and then cut them out. And they always laughed at me because I was in there making, 50 copies of stuff at a time. But the joke was on them because I used to cut them out. I would actually package them into decks and to packs, and then I'd sell them to my brothers. There you go. Then right here, I don't know if you can see it, let's zoom out. There we go. The Vince McMahon Cup, the only fantasy trophy that I ever won. And technically I didn't win it in the traditional sense because the XFL closed due to coronavirus. Thanks. So as you can see, I made sure to note that here. From our league, Extreme Football Mania, the Coronavirus Edition 2020 League Champion. The name of my team was the 12th McMahon. I won because I was the best team in the league. We did do like a simulated championship based on past performances and stuff, and I still ended up winning. But regardless, I was still the best record team in the league at the time. I think it was 4-1. And then I got the Razor Ramon. This is awesome. Picture of him with a kid back in the day playing Nintendo, regular Nintendo. But there's a picture of a Super Nintendo game there, so that's funny. And he signed it. I just recently found the ad thanks to WCW Worldwide helping me out to spread the word. And then a couple of my friends on Twitter that joined in and helped me find the picture. And I just, touched it up, printed it out on my awesome printer, and had him sign it just a week ago. And then speaking of signing things, I bought this off the eBay store for Brian Clark Adam Baum. He has a bunch of awesome pictures up there on his store to buy and other merch. I bought it because he's a cool dude and he follows me on Twitter for whatever reason. So I was like, hey, let me support the guy because he's got a store and trying to get that going. A magazine cover of Scott Hall from the first year of the NWO. I bought early 2000s when all this stuff was super cheap back then because no one cared about it. Luckily got that and just have that in the frame because it's awesome. All right, let's go over here. Oh yeah, sorry, VCR, didn't mention that. Someone's gonna complain about that. He didn't say anything about the VCR. I bought that recently and only watched maybe one movie on it. It was funny because my daughter knows about the TV messing up and to hit it to get it going because sometimes the screen will move. And she thought that the TV was messing up because she saw the tracking lines of the VHS, so I had to explain old technology to her. So it's pretty funny. This question block, you may wonder, is this just for decoration? Is this one of those light up ones? No, it's not. You see it doesn't light up. But it opens up, and this is awesome. This is how I store all kinds of little cables, mostly charge cables that I need, some adapters and stuff like that, like power adapters. This is perfect for that. I have everything I need in here. And then this awesome Animal Crossing case. I got my 3DS in there. And then little pixelated Link pillow. These awesome coasters. Got those a while ago of Nintendo cartridges. These, my brother, I think he got it off of Etsy or something. They're perler bead PlayStation style pixelated coasters. They have the coaster back on them. More Nuka-Cola. And here's the picture that I mentioned earlier. Me, let's move this out of the way. Me in the hospital. This was so I was 5 years old. So this was actually Halloween. You can see the candy in my hand. Halloween 1989. And there's the Nintendo, my original Nintendo in the background. Karate Kid, that little box I had, the little suitcase or whatever you want to call it, with a bunch of games there. And then, of course, the NES Advantage, my favorite controller ever. The old McDonald's buckets there showing that it is Halloween. So I was 5 years old, and I was crossing the street with my, my stepbrothers, I guess. My mom wasn't married to their dad, but just easier to say it that way. And I was with my brother as well, and I ran ahead of everyone through the crosswalk, though. But I still ran ahead of everyone, and a guy decided to go through the crosswalk when I was still crossing. Because a lot of people will do that. They'll just still go through the crosswalk. If the people are far or close enough to the opposite curb, they'll just drive through because they don't want to wait for you to get all the way across. Well, this is the reason why not to do that, because me as a 5-year-old kid, I ran across ahead of everyone. And I still remember in my head at the time, I thought I got to the other side and jumped on the curb. I don't remember the car coming at, or it was a truck actually. I don't remember it coming at me. I do not remember being scared or anything. I don't remember getting hit. I just remember waking up and seeing people around me and trying to get up, and I couldn't get up because my leg was broken all the way at the top, almost by the hip. And in this picture, you can't really see, but my whole leg was like wrapped up, and they eventually put me in a cast that went from the top of my stomach, like under my ribs, all the way down one leg completely, half down another leg with a bar in between the two legs. And I had to wear that for a long time, even out of the hospital. And I know I went to kindergarten and saw everyone at school. So it would have been right when I started kindergarten. So I remember then, I remember going to the pizza place that we'd go to all the time and being in a wagon with my cast. I remember trying to walk in it actually after a while and being able to. It was awesome, like drag on the walls. I was even able to stand up because I did have one free leg, even though the other leg was slanted out. Hard to stand on both, but still I was able to. And I remember trying to play football, and I fell and cracked my head. It wasn't bad, but I hit my head pretty hard trying to play football on a giant cast, which was awesome. But yeah, I just didn't want to sit in the bed all day with that thing. So that's how I got money, because there was a settlement because of that. And that's how some of these things, like the GameCube I bought when I turned 18, when I finally got access to it, and a few other games and stuff like that. And then I kind of used it to get by as I became an adult and went to ITT Tech, which I mentioned before. And I quit going to because that school sucks, and now they're not even accredited, or probably don't even exist anymore. This is my little magnet board. I originally got this because I wanted to put it under the TV and be able to put stuff on it with magnets, but also it's supposed to be dry erase, but it doesn't really do a good job with the dry erase markers, because I wanted it to be like a high score thing, so we can keep track of like the family high scores in games. And it never really happened. Maybe I'll do something similar with a different board in the future. So instead I just kind of put magnets and cards on here. Deion Sanders, of course, I explained before, one of my favorite guys. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash just got those cards signed in California recently. Pippin, because I was a Bulls fan as a kid, and these cards were awesome. I just remember not really understanding the contest with it, but just thinking the cards were awesome, and there was like so many different versions of them, and just always liking seeing them because they looked cool. And then I threw Ricky Waters in there because I always kind of liked him growing up. And the gold card's awesome because I just opened a box of these score cards recently. And then, of course, Jason Kipnis. You may not know who this guy is. I don't know how well known he is. I know he's just been recently in the minors. He was on the Indians before and the Cubs, but I just randomly saw him on the World Series when it was Indians versus Cubs a few years ago, and he looked enough like me where I was like, why does this dude look like me? This is weird. So I wanted to get one of his cards just because it was funny. And then my original Raw Deal Jericho card from back when I first got the game. When I first saw it just randomly and picked it up, and Jericho was my guy. Scott Hall's my #1 wrestler. Chris Jericho #2. So I got the deck. I still have the original card. Let's look at the controller setup here. So all these cubes, in case you're wondering if you saw them, as you see my chair in the way for my little workstation right here that I use half the time, usually during the daytime. At nighttime, I'll use my other computer in the bedroom. But there's all these cube storages except for the one Minecraft character, which was my YouTube channel character. Then I have some 3DS and 2DS, and then these little cases of Game Boy. They're DS cases, but they fit the Game Boy Advance games. And I printed these out and put those in there. And then Game Boy in these little tape cassette cases, which is awesome. I found all those from different YouTube videos. NES Complex is where I figured a lot of that out. His channel, but there's websites where they already have those designed where you can print them out and they're the right size for those containers for the cassette tape case and the DS case. I just thought it was the better way to do it because I don't have the original boxes. It's awesome. But in all of these cubes, each one's a different set of controllers. For example, this is all the PlayStation controllers, PS1, 2, 3, and 4, all in there. Then I have 360 and Xbox. Then let's see if we can move this chair. Down here is Nintendo 64 controllers. This one's NES and Super Nintendo. Got the NES Advantage in there. Then we got Dreamcast and Sega Genesis. Down here we have Switch stuff, which is mostly my what do you want to call it? Grip, yeah. And then those little classic controllers that they made, which I don't really use that much, but they're awesome. Wii and Wii U, and then Gamecube down here. I don't have a lot of Gamecube stuff. I think I only have 2 controllers right now. But okay, boom. Let's back up now. Oh, I forgot to mention this backpack over here in this corner. It came in a box, which the box is actually up here. That Super Nintendo box. And there was a bunch of random items. This was like the best item in it. Inside there normally I have both of my mini systems. They're all ready to go. The Nintendo Mini, which is right here, the boxes of them, and the Super Nintendo Mini. But the Super Nintendo Mini is actually finally being used. It's in the garage for when I work in there, and for the kids to be able to play something on a little TV that I put in there. In the corner, got this old wood grain shelf. It was in my garage, in my old work area at the old house, but I kept this one just to have something to put movies on. And then I got some binders of cards and stuff down there. In the corner, in case you're wondering what this is, NWO, custom NWO steel chair. I bought the decals on eBay, and I put them on just random Walmart chairs. That one's in the corner because it's a bad boy. It started breaking, so it's going to cut someone eventually. It's like this top part started coming off or something, and the designs are starting to come off too. This is the black and white one. I have 2. This one, the design's starting to come off it a little bit too. I think both are missing the R on world. That one's in better shape, but I was using that chair for a while until I finally got a decent office chair. So now the arcade, you've heard it this entire time. Street Fighter Alpha 2 playing on it. Legends Ultimate. Just recently put the little arcade sign above it. So this one is a little bit modded. For example, I put the Legends Gamer in there, and that's a separate joystick, I guess you could say, that it goes to like a little puck that you hook up to a TV. So I swapped out the original one to put this in here. The reason why, it has 2 extra buttons, and it's missing the spinner, which I don't really use that much. But on this arcade, I don't need these buttons that often. But if I hook up my computer or something, for example, to it, I could use it for a lot of more modern games, like on Steam. Let's take a look at the NWO. Awesome stool right there. I also have the arcade up on a little bit of a riser. That's a 3-inch one, because I'm not that tall, I'm only 5'8", but still my back was sore playing it. This is more close to standard size, I think, now. I just moved this kick plate out of the way because normally it sits in there, but this is another thing I did custom, is I took it out of there so I can have space in here, which normally there's nothing in there. I just put a shelf just a little cheap one I bought on Amazon, and put it in there to have space to put other things. For example, if there's controllers I want to put in there, or if there is my laptop, I want to hook it up to here to play Steam games through it, which you can. I have the wires tucked in behind the back here to plug it up into here whenever I'm ready to play it. I have it all set up where I can put it in there and it's not in the way. I'm going to cut this down so I can slide it in there, because right now normally it wouldn't go in there unless you take this top part off and slide it in and then put that on top. So I want to make it where I can slide it in and take it back out without doing that. So let's go, let's move this back and, oops. Let's take a look at some of the artwork over here. I got a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe poster up here, and then some more artwork here I got from Redbubble. Kirby's, because he's one of my favorite guys. Little Flute Boy from Link to the Past, because it's my favorite game and just one of those obscure characters in the game. I just love the scene. That's also from KARILIKELIKES, which I mentioned before. And then I printed this one out myself, but not on my fancy printer, with an older printer. It's the Rainbow Shell, and you might wonder, okay, Rainbow and Rainbow. The street I live on is Rainbow, so I was like, I'm basically live on Rainbow Road. So I was like, I gotta get Rainbow Road on a poster, that's awesome. And then I was like, oh wait, Rainbow Shell. So once we moved here, I thought that was awesome. Back here is the couch with a Blockbuster blanket, which is still, I think I have a few available still. They're around 25 bucks for sale on the Joypadlad.com shop. There's the front. Got my Switch. It was on, but I think it just turned off from sitting here too long. Went into sleep mode. I had Dragon Quest Builders 2 on there just for the ambiance. There you go. There it is. So Dragon Quest Builders 2 on this TV, 55-inch. I'm not like a huge, like, I don't have to have the biggest TV. This one's 4K, but I didn't buy it because it had to be 4K. It was just a cool, cheap TV, so I got it. And then over here, this is another picture from KARILIKELIKES. It's probably can still find it on Redbubble. Mario with the ghosts around him from Super Mario World, one of my favorite games too. And my favorite Mario game. Awesome picture. And then of course Bunny Link. How do you not like Bunny Link? I mean, I'm probably one of the few people that I see talking about Bunny Link ever. Probably my favorite and most memorable thing in that game, when you go to the Dark World and all of a sudden you're a bunny and there's this bully guy beating up the little pink ball guy. It's just such a weird thing, and you can't do anything. You don't have your weapon. I had to represent Bunny Link in there. And then of course Chrono Trigger. One of my favorite, if not favorite, scenes of the game, when you see Magus here on the cape, and this is when Chrono's dead before you resurrect him. Oh, spoilers, oops. And you have the choice of, do you want to fight Magus or try to get him to join you? And I put all my favorite characters to have at that time in the party when you see him here. I printed this out on my old printer, but it actually still looks pretty decent. So I don't know if I'm going to reprint it or not, but I, recreated the scene by piecing together screenshots. Had to represent that game because it's, one of my favorite top 2 games of all time. Then over here I just have some homeschool stuff. Started doing that with my daughter this last week. And then of course the wrestling setup. I did this recently because I saw, the Major Figure podcast. They actually were doing something similar to this. They did figure photography where they booked a Fed and then they took pictures of it. So I was kind of taking all my old wrestling toys and trying to do something similar. And I took a ton of pictures, but I just never finished the project. So I had this set up here because I thought it was perfect with this shelf right here and here. And then in these cabinets, there's just more wrestling figures in there, a bunch of cards in here I'm not going to dig out. Up here, we got a little setup of Street Fighter stuff. There's the other controllers I mentioned. Those are still in the box. I never took them out. Of Ryu and Ken, and then some Kid Robots. And some Pixel Pals up there, Bison, or Vega, or Dictator, if you want to call them that. And Ryu and Ken in the background of the Pixel Pals. And I just put up this shelf recently and moved these over here of pop figures. I know people probably cry because I have them out of the package, but I don't really care. I bought them for cheap. and I'm not a collector. I just want them on display. So Teen Wolf, one of my favorite movies as a kid. Ninja Turtles, of course, and then Aladdin was one of my favorite movies as a kid too. Awesome scene, awesome pop statue up there. So that's basically it. That's the whole room. Let's take a look from this corner if I can do it. Kind of give you a little panorama again. So there's the door coming in. There's how everything's set up in that corner. It's all the retro station basically, and then all the games on the shelf and controllers. There's the workstation, movies, arcade. And then over here, yeah, I didn't go down here. I'll show this really quick. Then this is the more modern game setup right here with the pictures on each side of the TV. Down here's the Switch, the PS4. Got one of those controller holders. Oh, move my finger out of the way. Sonic. Got Adventure Time right there. There's passes from Minecon and SoCal Retro Gaming Expo I went to before. The Wii U's down here. This switcher, there's two switchers because I have too many things. That I was plugging in at the bottom here. I don't know if I still need that many now because I removed one thing, but what I'll show you in a second is it's pretty awesome how I have it set up. PS3 over here. This isn't my original either. I got rid of my original. Actually, I lost my original a while ago because it was a backwards compatible one and it stopped working. And then I went to GameStop because I still had the warranty and they wanted to give me one that wasn't backwards compatible, so I had to fight them to give me exactly what I ordered back on the warranty. So I had to drive like 45 minutes to another store, but I got it. And then that one I eventually sold off and just got the Slim. And then I got the more modern, more recent Xbox 360S, I guess it is. There's so many different versions because my other one stopped working. There's an old original, the original white model, so I got that one. And then down here I have a little USB hub because there's not a lot of spaces to plug into this thing down here, that little puck thing. That's the thing I was telling you about. That's like the Legends arcade, but just for the TV. That normally came with that arcade stick, and the one that was in the arcade is down in here, right there with the less buttons. So why that's cool is I have a little stand I can put behind this chair over here, and you can just have it set up right here, and you can play arcade on this TV. But also, I have cords that are behind here, and maybe I'll show it in another video or something, but over here, they're tucked back there. These stretch all the way over to the arcade over here and can plug in, and you can have that. What it will do is it'll take that puck down here, and it'll broadcast that to the TV, and then I have a splitter down in here. You can't really see because it's dark behind there, but it'll split that signal to this TV and to the arcade. And if you hook up both, because when you hook that up to the arcade to the puck, it'll start controlling whatever's on there with the arcade. It's the same thing as when you plug in the computer to it. So then I just got to connect with a USB underneath the couch back here and have the stand of the other arcade stick. And you can have, on this TV, you can just play arcade, or you can connect it to both, and I've done it before in pictures, and you can have 4-player arcade on 2 different screens at the same time, which is pretty awesome. And then it's not only just the arcade thing, you can also do it with my computer. I could plug it in to the arcade and to the TV at the same time and play like Steam games, for example. So that's the ultimate setup. I haven't utilized it that much because I don't have 4 people really to play, but you know, if I have parties and stuff like that, it's like perfect to set that up for everyone if they want to play, like for example Simpsons arcade on this big TV, 2 players, and then 2 players look at the other arcade over there. But that's going to do it for this video. My first video actually cut off in the middle. I don't know if you'll notice the edit, but it should combine to just over an hour, maybe hour 20 minutes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't blab too much. I went into detail on some things. I skipped over some other things because I didn't want to drag on too long. Just wanted to kind of share some of the unique and funny stories. And I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, like I said, you enjoy it. And if you want me to do some other videos about some things, maybe for example showing the setup with the multiple arcades, let me know and maybe I'll do a video on that as well. All right, take care.